Okay, good morning, everybody. And it's great to be back here in Lockport on a very, very serious issue. First, let me wish everybody a happy Easter holiday. And for those of you, and particularly McKinley here, a happy Dingus Day. Because I was once the Grand Marshal for Dingus Day, and he and his whole family were there, and we marched together. Right? Is that true, Dave?
I just got candy off the side.
Okay. Second, I want to wish the Lions well. I hear they had a good basketball season, so go Lions. I played basketball for James Madison High School, but our team wasn't very good. Our motto at James Madison High School was, "We may be small, but we're slow." So, and third, I'm always trying to help Lockport in every way I can, and so we're doing all the things we can. And the good news is we're continuing to work really hard and seeing that GM factory grows as we move into electric cars. And I've gotten a promise, that's not why we're here today, but I've gotten a promise from the head of GM, Mary Barra, that factory is going to grow and there'll be more jobs. They've added 250, they're going to add more. So that'll be great news. Okay, so I want to welcome people who are here. Our great mayor of Lockport, Michelle Roman, our police chief, Steve Abbott, our Lockport School Board President, Leslie Tobin, the Buffalo Deputy Police Commissioner, Commissioner Wright, thank you for coming up from Buffalo, and our former Niagara legislator and teaching assistant, Anita Mullane. They'll be the people speaking after I have. Okay, so it's very good to be here, and this is a very important issue. Last Thursday, as we all know, New York saw an unprecedented wave of swatting attacks. False reports of a mass shooting taking place in 36 school districts across New York, including right here at Lockport High School, and most recently at South Park High School in South Buffalo. In total, police had to go to over 220 schools to check in. Many schools were put on lockdown. Thousands of students who didn't know what was going on. It's terrifying. I have a 4-year-old grandson. He'll start school next year, and I can imagine what happens. I can imagine what happens to the kids, to the parents, to the teachers and faculty and staff when something like this happens. It is terrifying. Now, the swatting attacks are very disturbing. I just ask anyone to imagine getting an alert or text that there was a mass shooter at school with students injured. And that's what the hoax claimed. He didn't even just say there's a mass shooter. He said students injured. That is just traumatizing. It's awful, awful, awful. The Western New York is still traumatized by horrible gun violence. We all remember what happened at the Top Supermarket in East Buffalo just a little while ago. So false reports like this matter even more in a place like Buffalo, where we've had a real attack not very long ago. So we need action, real action. As majority leader, the first majority leader from New York ever, I have some clout, and I always try to use it for the people of Western New York and the people of New York State. And so I am here to say that the feds need to step up to hold the perpetrators accountable, to figure out what happened, and to figure out how to stop incidents like this, which are occurring in larger numbers at more and more schools. So I am issuing a 3-point plan right now. This is the first time I'm announcing it right here in Lockport. First, we need a full FBI investigation. New York State Police are doing a very good job. The FBI is assisting them, that's good. But especially given that these swatting incidents may have come from overseas or out of state, our local police, as good a job as they do, our New York State Police even, as good a job as they do, can't do it on their own. So we need the FBI to launch a full investigation here and give the resources they need. And second, I'm calling on us, and I will lead the charge in the Senate, to supercharge the FBI with an additional $10 million specifically aimed to target swatting. All the kind of personnel, machinery, and other things they need, they should get, and get it right away. And because we're seeing so many attacks like this, it means we need more resources. It means we need more agents to track down these evil criminals who hide in the darkest corners of the internet. Wherever these criminals may be in the world, the FBI needs to find them and bring them to justice. And third, we need the FBI and the feds to actually start tracking the crimes. They don't track them yet. In other words, they don't have a whole list of where they're occurring, when, and how, and where, and when. Particularly because we won't be able to figure out the trends without the data. We need this data ASAP. They can put it together, and that's how we'll know. Because do we know if this came from outside the country? We don't. It may have, it may not have. Tracking will help us determine that. As I said, what happened here in Niagara County, here in Western New York, right here at Lockport High School, is terrifying. And we need to do everything in our power to stop these crimes from happening. These threats may be fake, but the emotional toll, the panic. Imagine if you have a kid or grandkid in school and you hear that there was a shooting there. Panic. You don't recover from it, even when you know, you may learn an hour later it was not true. But you don't recover from the trauma that affects you. So this is real, and unfortunately the effects are lasting, and that's why it's got to stop, and stop so quickly. Now, this community is lucky. We had exemplary officers who responded quickly to the call, but they spent their time and resources responding to the hoax. And it didn't just happen in New York. This is not a New York phenomenon alone, although we've experienced a lot of it. The similar swatting attacks targeted schools in Massachusetts, Iowa, Pennsylvania. And the fact that the police had to go to over 220 New York schools from one end of the state to the other is wasting thousands of dollars of resources on a very sick act. It's not a joke. Some people say this was a sick joke. This was much worse than a joke. These swatting attacks can cost even more. A swatting prank on Long Island resulted in $100,000 in wasted resources over a fake bomb threat that caused the community to go into full panic. And the reports of these after reports of these incidents started to arise and become apparent that this was not one, but that dozens of school districts got the same exact phone call of a false mass shooter, I called the FBI and I said, we got to get on top of this. And I've now presented to them the three-point plan that I have just announced. It's no secret these are hard to track. And that's because these bad actors can use multiple VPNs, that's virtual private networks. They can use what's called VoIP, that's voice over internet protocol, to hide where their computer is and where they're calling from. And in addition, complications that added in complications that law enforcement investigates the issue, believe that this call may have come from overseas. Harder to track, but we still have the ability to do it once you get the full brunt of the FBI behind it, and to go after them, because we can stop things from coming in. We just got to know who, where, why. We need to know now if there's some sort of coordinated effort to terrorize schools, whether the culprits are here or overseas. But that's where the FBI can help our New York State Police, who, as I said, are doing a tremendous job. They are very good, the New York Police. They have the best of the best when it comes to cyber investigations like this. And so we have to make it clear that we need everyone cooperating with each other. Okay? But because these swatting attacks are increasing so much is why we need to supercharge the FBI with $10 million. We've got to stop it once and for all. And the FBI agents are the best when it comes to finding out hackers and swatters like this, who scam people and use the internet for unthinkable acts of violence. We haven't seen such massive swatting at schools, but they have gone after individuals both here and overseas who do these acts on their own. Sometimes they've done them in an individual school for ransom and things like that, and they've had a pretty good success rate at that. And let's remember this. Think of the FBI agents like a cyber SWAT team to go after those who are swatting our schools. And remember this, one of the best deterrents to crime is know you might get caught. We don't want these people, wherever they are, persons, people, sitting there with impunity, think they'll never find me, I can keep doing this. Once you catch 1 or 2 or 3, the message gets out, you're going to get caught. And there are very severe criminal provisions and long prison terms for the people who do this. Now, that funding would be on top of billions of dollars I was able, as majority leader, to secure last year in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And there is money going to programs such as Stop School Violence, and Western New York very soon, and we're going to help you figure out how to apply for these funds. They're just putting out the regulations now, and I'm sure this school would be at the top of the list to getting those kinds of funds. But that's not what we're asking today. We're talking about the FBI, law enforcement, and going after it. Okay? That's what I want to say. Without data, we can't see how bad this problem is and how it's working, so we need that data. We need the $10 million, and we need the FBI to be all on, do everything they can. Bottom line is, swatting is no joke. It's no little passing thing. It's sick. It's heartbreaking. It causes long-term damage. It's got to stop. We need all federal hands on deck, including the FBI, working with our state police to hold these criminals accountable, to catch them, to prosecute them, and also to stop, by cyber defense, to stop these from happening to begin with. So thank you for that. And now let me call on our mayor. Where'd you go, Mayor?
Right here.
Ah, there you are.
Thank you very much. Appreciate Senator Schumer visiting us in person and bringing this to the forefront. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've been swatted. Last year we were swatted as well with a bomb scare. Our local police department did an excellent job helping determine where that was coming from, and that was from Texas. And so we know the seriousness of this. I consider these acts of terror. These are terrorist acts because they are bringing fear and terror into our communities and into our schools. Our first responders and our public works were here within 3 minutes of the call. They took this very seriously. We had the entire perimeter blocked off by our public works officers, our Lockport Police Department, state troopers, and county sheriffs all were here within 3 minutes. And then the outlying North Tonawanda, Niagara Falls, the Border Patrol, they all came and they helped assist clear the building and make sure that it really was a false alarm. We are grateful that it was a false alarm, but meanwhile, the students are terrified, the faculty are terrified, they're blocking doors that can't lock, they're trying to figure out how am I going to protect all these kids, when am I going to approach this person with a gun. They were told, the police were told that the shooter was in a bathroom. We had young men and young girls in a bathroom when the lockdown happened. They had a gun to their faces, they had to be patted down to ensure that they were not a shooter, they did not have a weapon. That is traumatizing. That is something that they are going to have to deal with. I appreciate the school district's response. I appreciate their partnering with us and having a wonderful school resource officer. Officer Justin O'Connor did an excellent job, and we need more school resource officers. That's where we'll need the funding to help pay for that, because the city of Lockport and the school district can't afford to do that, but we have it in one building. We have many buildings.
Right.
And so so we were fortunate that it was in a building that was secure and had the resources to help do that. And this is a serious thing. Our community is resilient. We come back from these things. But but it has a lasting impact. So I appreciate your coming and bringing this to the forefront.
Right. And Mayor, let me just say, well, I was going to do it with each person, but I'll do it all together. The elected officials, the school officials, the teachers, the police, responders did an amazingly great job, and we are here to praise them. It's too bad you had to do it. We don't want you to have to keep doing it. But thank you, thank you, thank you. All of you did an amazing job. Okay, and next we have our police chief,
It wasn't a false alarm.
Steve Abbott.
Oh,
It was real until it was deemed fake.
Right.
We need to clarify the difference with our kids.
Good point.
Yeah, and to that point, he's absolutely correct. I mean, our officers responded within 3 minutes. We had boots on the ground and 2 teams inside the building. I'd like to thank all the agencies from within Niagara County that responded. We had over 100 officers respond to the scene. Their dedication, hard work, and courage. They thought it was real as well. And that is what everybody has to look at it as. I mean, these kids, these teachers, everybody who was here is traumatized by this. And we've had multiple events through last year, and you know, thank God for our state partners, our federal partners. We were able to ascertain last year's event. We had 2 juveniles that were arrested because of the bomb threat, but because of our cooperation with the state and the federal FBI, we were able to backtrack, and they were able to backtrack and find a gentleman in Texas who was also involved. So we do work closely with the federal partners, and there's only certain things we can do locally. And once it gets beyond our scope locally, you know, that's why I agree with Senator Schumer, funding the FBI to get more agents on the street to look at, you know, what's going on behind the scene for cyber attacks. And he's correct. The part of the problem is this: Discord servers are is a company that you can create a virtual computer and then delete it, and those records are gone the minute somebody deletes those. And then they're using VPNs to bounce them from Budapest to Canada. And that's where the FBI comes in, that's where the senator comes in, and that's where that will help us locally to put a stop to this, because it has to stop. And there has to be consequences. There has to be consequences. It can't be sit around in a restorative circle with these people. They need to go to jail. That's the bottom line.
Long sentences. This is real damage.
Yep, and it's, you know, it's not fake, because look at the emotional, you know, effect on everybody here.
Yep, exactly.
All right, and not to mention just the teachers, our own officers. You know, when you talk about officer wellness, they thought they were coming into a school that had 7 injured, and people were being shot in the bathroom. It affects everybody. I mean, I've been a cop for 30 years, and nothing is worse like this. You know, I got 2 girls that graduated from here 2 years ago. So I get it, you know, but as a side note too, one of the worst things that happens during one of these events is all the misinformation of everybody getting onto Twitter and Facebook.
Yes.
And throwing stuff out there. We can't have that. It is detrimental. The school, the elected officials, the police department will give you the information when they have it. It's not a matter of not wanting to tell you. It's a matter of what we know at the moment. You know, and sometimes that takes time. And then the Twitterverse blows up, and it's all over the place, and before you know it, you add more chaos, more confusion to the matter. So I agree with Senator Schumer. I think funding the FBI more to fix this and start bringing some of these people to justice and give them long prison sentences, I'm all for that.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Again, the school board, everyone rallied to the cause. And as much damage as there is, it could have been worse in terms of the trauma and everything else. But we had great responders, and representing our school board as its president. It's very hard to be a school board president. Everyone, when bad things happen, you're always there. When good things, you don't hear of it. It's a great school district, so thank you for the good job you do, President. We have President Leslie Tobin.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, it does not feel good to stand up here and say we were the lucky ones, because so many communities across this nation are not lucky. Thousands of children die every year. So to say that we're lucky is hollow, because it was real. The trauma, the emotionally and mentally that our staff, that our students, that our families endured, is not going away. I am so grateful that Senator is here today and acknowledges how serious this was, because then it will happen again, and the next time we may not be the lucky ones. We want every student to go home to their family. No parent should have to drive away thinking, is this the last time I drop my kid off at school? No teacher should have to come into any building and wonder if this is the day they have to stand in front of a gunman to protect their students. And no child should have to text their mother or their father or their family and say, if I don't make it home today, know that I love you. It is real. It is raw. I cannot express to you how important our staff was. They were fierce and brave and stood in front of those kids, and they barricaded doors, and they did everything we've asked them to do. And our first responders were amazing and here in minutes and did not hesitate to walk into, they didn't know what, but they did it, and we've done everything. They have done everything that we have asked them to do now. So now it's time for us to do what they're asking. Make sure this never happens in another school. Make sure this never happens to another family, and that every child gets to go home at the end of the day. So thank you.
Beautiful. It breaks you up that our school board president said, I'm an emotional person. To have kids have to say, send a message home, I love you, I may not see you again. What kind of world do we live in? We must stop this. Stop this now. Our next this is not just limited to Lockport or Niagara County here in Western New York. We've had problems in Buffalo, South Buffalo too, and we have Alfonso Wright, our Deputy Police Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner.
I am so grateful for Senator Schumer taking this initiative, and I'll tell you why. We at South Park, our school resource officers and our officers did a fantastic job. Our school resource officers constantly, they talk to the principals in the school and try to go over training in case something like this happens. And you must be a sick individual, a very sick individual after seeing things would take place on the news, school shootings, to make those calls. So individuals like that should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And it's personal to me, because I had the unfortunate incident to responding to the TOPS massacre. What a massacre looks like, because there was at least 3 or 4 people that I grew up with, that I know. When I walk in the TOPS and see a father that was getting a birthday cake for his son, and he never got to come home. So I am so grateful for Senator Schumer. I hope this passed. Let's get the resources and the funding to the FBI so we can put these individuals behind bars where they need to be.
Our last speaker is our former county legislator and a great teaching assistant, Anita Mullane.
Thank you. I actually retired from the district and happened to be in the building that day as a substitute teacher. And it was pointed out to me afterwards, it wasn't lost on me, that one of the individuals that was killed in Nashville was a substitute teacher. I can tell you this was very traumatic for the staff and for the students. I can't thank you enough, Senator Schumer, for making this a top priority, because it needs to be a top priority. I don't think people realize, I know how wonderful the staff at Lockport, the Lockport School District is, because I worked in many of the buildings during my career, and I know that our staff members put themselves in harm's way to protect our students. And I heard that firsthand from several of our staff members. So I thank them. I thank you for coming and for doing something about it. And I hope that this stays at the forefront of everything, because that was an awful day. I know I never want to relive, and I'm sure the students don't either. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Okay, we'll take some questions from the media on this subject. Mr. Dave.
Yes, Senator. Regarding your plan, what about accountability? We live in a state where if you do something, these days there's not too much accountability, particularly if you're a young person. There's no prong in your attack here about
No.
setting penalties for this.
There are very severe penalties for doing this on the books. We just have to catch these people and then make sure that the prosecutors don't plea bargain, don't take this less seriously, etc. The penalties are there.
All right, and just to follow up on that, if I may, you mentioned that, for all you know, a lot of this stuff is actually coming from other countries.
Yes.
And you talked about giving the FBI $10 million to track them down. Well, so what? What are you going to do with them?
No, the FBI has we are very good as a country, both our Defense Department and our law enforcement, our federal law enforcement, at cybersecurity. It's one of the reasons, frankly, Ukrainians are doing as well as they're doing, because we've lent our cyber knowledge to them. So let me just, so the point, no, they are not. We can catch people overseas who do this by cyber. Now, it's not so easy. That's why they need more resources. As the chief mentioned, they can ping it. This person could be in, I don't want to pick a country, well, Budapest, no offense to anyone in Budapest. Send it to Canada, send it to here. But they can trace it, and they have. So they have the ability to do it, but it costs money, it costs personnel, and that's what we want to get them, all the personnel and money they need. We have talked to the experts. They believe our three-pronged plan is really the way to go. If they need more and we find out they need more, I'll be at the ready to give them what they need. We can extradite. First, we can stop it from coming, but second, with many places we have extradition treaties, and there are other ways to stop them as well, and I'll leave it at that. Other questions?
Can you just give us a little bit more specific information about what that $10 million is likely to go towards? You mentioned
Yes.
personnel.
It's not only personnel, it's also, you need top-notch kind of cyber detection machinery. They have some, but with all this swatting, they need more. It's both machinery and personnel.
And can you give us a rough timeline of when that money is likely to make an impact? Because
Yes.
crime
Okay. Well, the upcoming budget is done this summer, but I want to get the FBI to do it more, and I'm going to ask them if they can just switch some resources, and we'll fill in the gaps. We need to do this ASAP.
And obviously,
Once they know the money's coming in the budget, and usually when the majority leader says something is in the budget, especially this, which is not partisan in any way, you'll have everybody helping, they are able to move quickly.
a lot of this is treating really the symptoms of what people call America's gun problem. And we haven't really mentioned that in this meeting or this press conference here. Is there anything?
Well, as you saw, the people, it was mentioned by the police chief, the people from the Tops supermarket area, and I was very involved with them. I helped get that Tops supermarket get built from Mr. Nanula and Tops years ago. They went down to Washington, and we passed much tougher gun legislation the first in 30 years. It's hard, but we're going to do more and more. And Chris Murphy, our leader in the Senate, is working in a bipartisan way to try to get tougher stuff as well. Okay?
What more can you tell us about the Lockport engine plant?
Yeah, okay. Well, GM has made a commitment to move to electric vehicles, EVs. But of course, most of what Lockport did dealt with the internal combustion engine. So I got a two-pronged commitment from Mary Barra. I've helped the auto industry many different ways. I like the auto industry. We're very proud of our plants here in Lockport and Tonawanda. As you may remember, when Delphi bought it, they were going to close it, GM, and I went to GM and said, oh no, you're keeping it open, and it is open, as well as the one in Lexington Avenue in Rochester. So I have a long relationship. So we're going to do two things. They're going to make new components for electric vehicles. There's already one line already being there. They're adding 250 people, but they're also going to keep, they're not going to, when they reduce the internal combustion parts down the road, the number of the net employees will go up. They're not going to start reducing internal combustion until the EV stuff is built.
We're talking 500 guys now?
It's going to be many more, hopefully.
So it's still buggy if you don't have a place to put your papers when you
Yes.
put in?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. It does bug you.